So I want to fill this baby up with some chocolate. Now, generally, these things have some sort of a soft truffle ganache inside. Last couple of years, we did the ganache. We made it. Maybe I'll bring that back next year and we'll do the truffle ganache again. But we wanted to do a couple different things this year. One of them was doing these cake balls, which we're going to do in a couple minutes. So I'm just going to fill this thing up with chocolate. You do want to squeeze it down. Try to get the air bubbles out. And you want to... I actually look like I know what I'm doing with this, don't I? Hold that baby down. Make sure you crease it over. Do you see how I did that? If you leave it like this and you roll it down, you tend to going to squeeze it out in your hand. So you want to try to close it off. Then roll it down. Okay? And I like to grab it like this. I mean, everybody does. I'm left-handed, but everybody does it a different way. Now I can cut my hole and make a mess. And, well, before I do that, let's prep everything. A few popsicle sticks. Because we're going to make little pops we're going to make. So, can you see that? This is so viscous, I hardly have to squeeze it to get it out. If I'm doing a ganache center, it's going to be a little more thick than this. And sometimes you might even have to warm it up a little bit. Good enough. Back there, good enough. Some of those need more in. Fill it all the way to the top. Since I want to put the sticks in here, I want to fill it to the top. Try not to make too big of a mess. Because if I'm doing a ganache in there, I want to cover those holes up with chocolate. But since I'm going to put the sticks in here, let's get that off on that one. Now, I want this chocolate to be a little bit firm. So, let's see if I can do this without dropping them. Since I want this a little firm, let's slide it over here and give it the fan treatment before I put the sticks in. Otherwise the sticks are going to go, you know. So I want to firm that up a little bit before I jam the sticks in. And these are, they're just little tiny, they're very, very, I'll pass one around. They're very, very thin shell. Extremely, extremely thin. Feel how light that is. I mean, it's just, the chocolate is blown in there with a machine. Very, very lightweight. There's no weight to them at all. You've seen them. You use them. They're very, very light. So there's nothing to them. But you can use them the way they are, or you can dip them in more chocolate to kind of give it a little more chocolate the way they do. The Europeans like thin shelled chocolates, because especially Belgians, because they're all about the center. They're all about this creamy, what they call these praline centers that they make with all kinds of different nuts and creams. They like very thin shelled pieces. For some reason, Americans have everything thick, heavy. And they use a lot of milk chocolate in Belgium and a lot of light milk chocolate. Their milk there is excellent, like the Swiss. And the dark chocolate tends to be a milder chocolate. If you go to Germany, in France, the chocolate is very strong, bitter. That's what they like. The English like sweet milk chocolate. They eat mostly milk chocolate. Switzerland, milk chocolate, more what we call caramelized milk, kind of like caramely milk chocolate that you can taste there. Still have some lumps in this. I don't like the way that's melting. Okay, air dry, freezer dry. So far the air dry looks pretty good, but I'm starting to see some streaks in that air dry one. And that's what we don't want. Okay, so this is a fun little thing to do. All right, we'll let them set up for a few minutes. Now, you can get these. We have these also in a dark chocolate. Look how fast that's starting to set up in there. That's good. Our shells. Not quite ready. I wouldn't fill it too cold. Stay over there for a minute. Before we get to the cake balls, this time of the year we get a lot of requests and talking about caramel apples. All right, and there's a couple different ways that you can do this. I like, because I don't really do a whole lot of them, but I like to keep. No, they do it. It's here somewhere. There they are. I already did some. Now, before I put the stick in, before I do that. We're doing good so far? Question-wise, we're all right? Caramel. Where's that? They got it here somewhere. They sell it in small containers, or you can get a 5-pound loaf of it. We have just come out, Callebaut just came out with a caramel also, very similar to this one. You can melt the caramel and you can dip the apples. Okay. The problem is in the prepping of the apple. You got to make sure that you rough all that shininess off the apple, because it just slides right off. It's like they're waxed. They are waxed. It just slides right off, particularly when you do the heated. But if you do the method that I do, I take the caramel and I roll it out. Where our rolling pin comes in. Pardon me?
Do you warm the caramel first before you roll it?
Nope.
No?
No, because just the friction of doing this, and this is at room temperature, just the friction of doing this is enough to spread it out. If you warm it, it's going to be too soft and too sticky. So you want it somewhat cold.
I was just thinking of warming and right away shaping it into some sort of thing, let it cool, and then roll it more.
Just take it, just cut it right out and roll it. Put it in. Now this is. I should have pulled this off. This one dried. I did this one the other day. You can see, look, you don't need to warm it. You just, once you figure out the right size for the size of apples, you make a whole bunch of these up first. Depending how thick you want, how much caramel you want in there, how, you can get it pretty thin. And then you just it needs a little more. Just keep shaping it.
Could you do that right out of the container?
Absolutely, right out of the container. Don't have to worry about warming it. It's just cold. This is, where's my favorite tool? This is room temperature. It's probably 69 degrees. So, yeah, you don't want it too warm, because then it's going to be, and it's not sticky, because it's cold. So I can just keep pulling this and pulling this and pulling this until I get the shape that I want. And if you figure out the size of the cut that you have, once you figure that out, then you cut them all the same size and just first roll them out until you get to this point, and then shape it to the size of the apple that you want. Maybe a little bit more. It's surprising how big a piece you need. Now, does this take a little bit longer than melting? I don't know. It might. Is it less messy? Do you get more caramel out of it? Absolutely. Because once you melt it down in a pot, you're never going to use it all up. So this way, you use every bit of it. So Because all I'm doing is just stretching it out into a shape that I need. And just, let's see, how much is this weigh? .4.
2.4 ounces?
Yeah, no, not ounces. 0.14. 0.14.
That's all?
That's it. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a pound on there. So it's 0.14 of a pound. So it's about an ounce. I made this one. That was just, again, I guess. All right, then you just, still not quite big enough.
Could you roll that?
Yeah, you could roll it.
Could you?
Yeah, you
Got
can
a
roll it.
rolling pin?
You just have to be careful. Now, I use wax paper. Parchment paper would probably be better because the wax paper started to stick to the caramel and I was pulling some of the paper up. So I do have parchment down there. But actually, I did this one. This has been sitting here for a week. This one. Wrapped in that. And then you just wrap it. So rather than playing with this thing for another 5 minutes or so, I'll wrap it. And you just keep, you can keep stretching it. Keep working it. Got a little thin on that end, but that's okay. This one I did yesterday. This one I did yesterday. Now, the damage with an apple comes when you put the stick in. Stick it in lemon juice. A little citric helps. So if you dip it, right? And then the last thing you want to do is put the stick in. Don't make it put the stick in, then go to the next one. Do them all, then put, then dip the juice and do it. Because as soon as you put it in, it starts to, the apple starts going bad. As a matter of fact, these sticks, is the camera still running? I couldn't find sticks, so I bought some cheap carameled apples, pulled the sticks out, and I'm seeing little black spots on the sticks. That's from the apple starting to go bad in there. I don't know how old they were. So now I can put the stick in. All right. And already I see juice coming out, see? Again, now I worked that one pretty good. This one is a little bit. The caramel will work itself around. You can just keep playing with them and get, The shape wasn't quite right on this one. The shape was good on this one. But even with that, and being in this cold room, it's still got that bottom. But guess what? I can just work it. Kind of get the bottom back.
Are you going to dip them in chocolate?
And then you can dip in chocolate and put whatever topping you want on it. So we can now dip them in chocolate. That's another tray here. Pre-wax paper. And see what we get. Let's see what we get. Let's see, do we want to put any toppings on this? What do we have? Let's try. I want to be festive. Let's do some cranberries. If I can get it open. I'll do some cranberries here. Let's see how this is going to work.
Candied apple.
Now, obviously, for something like this, you need a fair amount of chocolate to work with because I got to get it down into the. Hopefully, the stick will hold. They are really short sticks. They went cheap on the sticks. Now, I don't want to roll it right away into toppings. Obviously, it's too viscous. It's too wet. I want to let it get a little crust on it first before I put the toppings around it.